Now to the final part in our special series on the Great Barrier Reef. We're looking at what can be done to secure the reef's future by making sure it can withstand the threats it faces on multiple fronts. In recent weeks, 730's covered the political furore over a government grant of almost $500 million to a private charity, the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, without a tender process. Tonight, we ask where exactly should that money be invested to have the most impact? Peter Grester with this report, produced by Amy Donaldson.
We've come to a unique place on the Outer Barrier Reef that's been at the heart of coral research for the past 45 years. If there's anywhere that's in a position to plot the future of the Great Barrier Reef, it's the Lizard Island Research Station. Kelly Hannon and Lexi Grabber-Landry are two of the researchers studying how changes in the climate might affect the complex underwater ecosystem.
Our oceans are absorbing carbon dioxide emissions that we're putting into the atmosphere. They're absorbing about 1/3 of those. So I want to see how that's going to affect fish in terms of how they swim and how they breathe.
Lizard Island is ground zero for most of the challenges facing the reef. It's been hit hard by 8 years of disasters, an outbreak of the crown and thorn starfish, 2 cyclones, then 2 consecutive years of warm water events that bleached the corals. On top of it all is the slow, insidious effect of absorbed carbon dioxide, which is making the oceans more acidic.
So this is a swim tunnel. You have seawater being pumped in here from outside, from the ocean.
In the lab, Kelly raises carbon dioxide in the water to mimic projected levels. Her work suggests it has a bizarre effect on fish.
It turns out that these fish are either maintaining their oxygen consumption levels or they require less, so they are being more efficient.
That seems to be good news, stronger fish.
You would think. Unfortunately, that's just one side of the story. So when we look at fish's behavior, they seem to be negatively impacted. So they're making some questionable choices that could very much get them eaten. So we are sort of starting to call it the dumb athletes. So we're getting these fish that are being attracted to predators, but they can swim faster. So we're trying to put this whole picture together and see if it's affecting all fish the same way.
Well, this is the aquarium system for the research station, and it's a really important place for researchers to be able to do controlled experiments.
Dr. Anne Hoggett has been a co-director on the Australian Museum's research station on Lizard Island for 28 years. She understands the island intimately. For her, the disasters are personal.
In 2016, when we got the coral bleaching, it was like being kicked in the guts. It was just appalling.
But this is the way nature works, always constantly evolving, constantly changing. Isn't this just another of those changes?
Sure, the Great Barrier Reef is hundreds of thousands of years old and it's come and gone many times, but it happens over long periods of time. What is happening this time is that it's happening really, really quickly, in decades, and it's just too fast for animals to be able to keep up.
The joint state and federal government's blueprint for saving the corals is called Reef 2050. For 3 years, it's included a set of ambitious targets to reduce sediment runoff and pollution. To help meet those targets, the government recently and controversially announced a record $443 million fund to be managed by a relatively small charity, the Great Barrier Reef Foundation. So why do you think the foundation was chosen by the government to receive this money?
I do think that you have to ask the department for because we weren't privy to the process
Which seems a little bit odd, doesn't it?
But it is what it is. We weren't privy to the process. We didn't suggest or ask for the money. We were approached once the funding decision had been made to see if we would be interested in entering into this partnership.
Anna Marsden is the foundation's managing director, charged with allocating the money.
So the funding is to be spread across 5 components: water quality, crown of thorn starfish, monitoring, coral reef science around the area of restoration, and then traditional owner and community engagement.
Not climate change.
Well, climate change is interwoven with that.
The foundation's backers include producers and consumers of fossil fuels, And its critics argue that means it's not serious about tackling the reef's biggest threat.
Our corporate partners, our donors, have zero influence, no influence at all over project selection. Climate change is #1 threat, without a doubt. The world has got to get its act together and we've got to reach Paris, and not just the high level of Paris, the low threshold of Paris, 1.5. Otherwise, every model is telling us we'll lose the world's reefs.
It's leveraging in money from outside. It's doing a lot of things that you can't normally do in a university or an institute.
Professor Ove Hugulberg is one of the world's leading reef researchers. Several years ago, he joined the scientific board of the Barrier Reef Foundation in an effort to work with industry.
With this backdrop of catastrophic events happening on the reef, this type of relationship between all sectors of society is going to be more and more important.
While the argument over the foundation rages, a lot of scientists and farmers are looking at where the money is going. $200 million has been earmarked for projects to help farmers reduce runoff and improve water quality. The second largest portion, $100 million, is for reef restoration and adaptation. And there's one place that's very keen to get every cent of that money.
And we're doing a bunch of experiments to try and understand.
This is the National Sea Simulator, a vast laboratory where scientists like Dr. Lena Bay are trying to answer one underlying question: how can humans help the reef cope with climate change?
Wow, this is impressive. So these are super corals.
I don't like the term super corals because no coral or human being can cope with all conditions, but these corals cope better with warming than others, yeah.
This is a form of accelerated evolution. They're trying to breed corals that are more resilient to heat in the hope that they'll be able to replant bleached reefs.
There's no way that you can scale up what we're doing here, what you're doing here in the lab, onto a system that's over 2,000 kilometres long.
It's a challenge. I don't deny that. So what we're aiming to do in our research and in our models is to look at whether we can prioritise the reefs and the species we work on, whether we can optimise some of these approaches to breed more resilient corals.
I think there is some reason to do that, but let's not kid ourselves about the scale of this problem. This is a huge ecosystem which will take enormous effort if we were to replant it, if you wanted to. And in many ways, because it's the size of Italy, it's a bit like trying to plant a market garden across the entire Italian landscape, all in 10 to 15 years.
That question of scale is at the heart of a robust debate within the scientific community over resilience and restoration projects.
The oceans will continue to warm over the next 30 to 50 years, regardless of how we act on climate change now. So what are we going to do in the intervening time? Just leave the reef to its own devices? Doing nothing is not a risk-free option.
Typically, when you swim around a reef over, say, half an hour, you'll see good patches and bad patches.
Professor Terry Hughes leads the Centre of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies at James Cook University. He's studied the impact of bleaching that's hit the reef 4 times in the past 2 decades. The forecasts are disturbing.
It takes 10 years for the reef to fully recover, and the big question is, when will we see the 5th bleaching event?
Do you have a sense of when that might be?
I dread to think that it might be as soon as next year. So
Next year?
Already the first 6 months of 2018 are among the 4 hottest years on the planet. The others being the last 4 years. So it's quite likely, if the Northern Hemisphere summer extreme comes to this hemisphere, that we will see bleaching in 2019.
For all the scientists we spoke to for this program, the Great Barrier Reef is more than just an experiment or a research project. All feel a deep, almost personal connection to it. Watching its decline is painful.
Do you feel a kinship with the reef?
Oh, very much so. Oh, tremendous kinship with the reef.
After 50 years of diving on the reef, Dr. Charlie Veron, the marine biologist regarded as the godfather of corals, has a vision he just can't shake.
I'm depressingly confident the models are right, especially about the physical world. Can be much less sure about how life is going to react to that, and of course much less sure about bloody politics.
The reef can bounce back incredibly quickly. I've seen it, but this is going to take a very long time for it to get back to where it was, at least a decade, if it gets that decade. And that's the real clincher.
I think it's really important that we don't paint the Great Barrier Reef as dead. It's not dead. But if we don't take really firm action, it will be.
I'm incredibly worried, man, because I see what lies ahead and I'm terrified of it. Not only for coral reefs, I'm terrified for my family, my children.